What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. In this one, break down what's going on with NIO stock and what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about the news just said about NIO and the overall market. That's going to be very important. What catalysts are coming out for the next couple of days that will affect NIO and many other stocks out there, and what the data is suggesting for NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the QQQ. But before I break you down about all this information, before I talk about what's going on with NIO stock, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. NIO is up 7.91% for the day, exceeding expectations. I predicted that NIO would get a really nice pump up. That was my prediction, to about like 10.5 or so, then get a rejection after that and trade sideways. Instead, NIO did better than I expected and went all the way up to almost $11. It actually got stopped by this resistance around 10.8. And so far, it's showing more and more strength because of some bullish news that came out. Janet Yellen was talking about how, with China right now, they're trying to stabilize the relationship between the US and China, and they're continuing to grow every single day as a result of it. She mentioned that there was a lot of progress that was made. Both sides are once again very open-minded, willing to help one another, and she considered this some very, very good news for the relationships of these countries and their economies moving forward. Now, does this mean everything's perfect between us? Not necessarily, but it does show some progress for trade relations to improve. That's part of why we saw a lot of Chinese tickers do a lot better. There was also this news that came out about NIO adding the solid state battery to user manuals, and that's going to be arriving with a 930-kilometer range option, which is equivalent to over like 600 miles last time I checked, 620 miles or something very close to that. Actually, I think it's at like 570 because it's a little bit less than what they initially said. But still, for the ES6 specifically, that's almost 600 miles, very, very close to that. That's also very, very awesome news for them. It's over 40% more energy dense. It's very, very powerful. And it's going to help them continue to get more users involved. And this is great news for them. This is helping this stock pump even more. This is going to help them go almost 1,000 kilometers on a single charge or a single battery if they're going to be swapping it. So, very, very bullish news for them. Lots of people are going to be incentivized to buy them now for NIO with these longer ranges, and investors are now very happy about this. This news came out just a couple of days ago, by the way. I think it was last Friday or even on Saturday, but it's still making the headlines today. We're still seeing new headlines coming out about it. That's why it's doing so well, and this is still worth noting. Now, there's more news coming out about how in the economy, we have even more pieces of data which are going to be very important. We had lots of Fed speakers today. They caused the market to just change a little bit. They weren't that impactful overall, though. Bostic was saying that the Fed has to continue to likely look at the data and be very patient before making the decision to raise rates. But he mentioned that rate hikes are on the table. He also talked about how inflation is too hot. We're still in a pandemic support economy still. We're still seeing effects of it. And the economy is holding up thanks to support from the pandemic. So overall, lots of data was dropping, and we're going to see even more data later on. However, for tomorrow specifically, we have Bullard speaking in the morning. He could cause a slowdown in the morning. He tends to be very, very hawkish. He's going to be speaking at about 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern time before the market opens. And my time right here, by the way, is in Pacific time. This is why the time is different for a lot of other people. This is going to be translated to 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Just to be clear, he's going to slow the market down a little bit. But besides that, there's nothing else that's like really major that's coming out. And I just want to note that this is important because the market's going to slow down tomorrow. Be very, very sideways. We're not going to see a whole lot. Why is this important? Because you have to remember on Wednesday, when Wednesday comes, we're going to see CPI coming out 1 hour before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. New York time. Okay? That's going to be very, very important. It says 5:30 in my chart, by the way, because I'm in the West Coast. I'm in a different part of the USA, so my time is different. But for the East Coast, for New York, for the New York Stock Exchange and where these exchanges are imminent, we're going to see this at 8:30 a.m. So before the market opens on Wednesday. So what is the market going to do tomorrow? It's likely going to be very sideways for most stocks, very, very boring. The market's going to be repositioning and just getting ready. And then for Wednesday, expect a massive, massive move depending on what CPI looks like. Now, for NIO in particular, we had some more news that came out on their Twitter page. Before I say that, let me just go over earnings. I forgot to mention this. Basically, earnings are going to be very boring for Tuesday. We have like this company. Then we have a couple of others for Wednesday. But by Thursday, we have Progressive and a couple of other big names. Then for Friday, we have big banks like JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, and not to mention Wells Fargo. So watch those for Friday. Until then, earnings are not going to be that big until like Thursday and Friday. Now for NIO, I just wanted to note the price price ratio is going up. NIO is gaining relative strength compared to the market. Morgan Stanley were saying NIO is going to outperform the market. They have been right so far. NIO tends to do very close to earnings. We're going to be waiting over the next couple of weeks for NIO's earnings. And from a seasonality basis, NIO tends to be green 55% of the time on Tuesdays. Tuesdays and Wednesdays tend to be NIO's best days of the week compared to the other days. Just wanted to note that. NIO also tends to do well in July. It's about 47% of the time it's green. And during the second and fourth hours, NIO tends to do well. And also during the sixth and seventh hours, now NIO tends to do very well as well. So watch those hours specifically, the second, the fourth, and then like during the sixth and seventh hours, we tend to see NIO doing better. This has been updated based off the new data. And finally, the short interest on NIO is starting to decline just a tiny bit. It's a little bit high, which could lead to a short squeeze as we're starting to see shorts close their positions. That's part of why NIO is pumping the way it is, because volume on NIO is still quite nice. We're seeing lots and lots of buyers stepping in, and we're still seeing good volume on it. Lots of transactions going forth, and lots of aggressive buyers are still stepping in after we're getting some very, very bullish news. So overall, this is looking more good for NIO. What do I see for the share price? So if you're a bull, you want to see it break above 10.8. If it breaks that, watch 11, 11.2 to 11.25. If that breaks, watch this thing go all the way up to 11.5. If it breaks down, we have support now at 10.66. If that fails us, watch 10.5, 10.4, which is pretty interesting. They're very, very tight ranges. Then $10 flat if that breaks, and then 9.5 will come after that. What do I think is more likely? Well, NIO is very tight. It's seen some signs of consolidation. But remember, tomorrow for the market's going to be very flat. So we might see NIO cool off a little bit, maybe retest 9.5 bounce and trade very sideways. I think it's just going to trade flat, not really do a whole lot. We may see NIO retrace a little bit to like, did I say 9.5? I meant like 10.5. We might see NIO come down to 10.5, bounce off that, and just trade sideways for the majority of the day because the market is just going to wait for CPI. And if the market pumps off CPI, NIO is going to pump even more. If not, the opposite could happen. So I think NIO is going to like retrace to 10.5, get a nice bounce after that, try to push up back to like 10.8, maybe see 11 or so, and then drop right back down and trade sideways. Kind of like how we saw near the end of the day today was trading sideways, something like that for tomorrow. And then when CPI comes out on Wednesday, we're going to see a much bigger move. For SPY specifically, we're going to be watching this very carefully. I think that tomorrow is going to be a boring day. It's going to come back down to like 438, make its way right back up and just trade sideways, back and forth and back and forth. We have resistance around 440. If that breaks, it could get closer to like 442. And we also have support around 438. If that fails us, watch 437.5, 437, then the 436.25 to 436.64 area for lots of chop. So watch those levels very carefully. We'll see what happens until then and just remain calm, cool, and collected. I think we're just going to trade sideways tomorrow because of CPI. Same thing with the QQQ. Likely lots of sideways price action. Watch resistance around 367 to 368 and supported at 366 and then 364.69. I think it might actually just trade sideways again. We might see it come down just like how it did today. It just didn't really do much. It may drop to about 364.69, come right back up and just continue to move sideways. I'm seeing that for tomorrow. And last but not least for Tesla, let me just note that Tesla is a little bit down. It dropped quite a bit. It has nice support at 265. If that fails, this is going to fill the gap all the way down to like 262. If it tries to bounce off this level, you're going to be watching 270. If it gets above 270, we could see this thing retest 272, then potentially come all the way up to 275. I predict that Tesla's just going to be very sideways as well with the market. It's going to drop down maybe back to like this 268 area, maybe a little bit below it, come right back up to like 270, maybe retest 272, come right back down, just trade sideways and just continue to chop around a bit until we get CPI. We might see Tesla bounce off CPI if we get some good news. But for now, I think it's just going to remain sideways. But if it breaks 265, if I am wrong about it just being sideways, then it's going to come down to 262. I just want to warn you guys about that for Tesla. It's looking kind of weak right now, but it looks like it wanted to base around 265, so we'll have to wait and see. But I am anticipating not a whole ton of downside left unless we get a bad piece of news. I don't think it's going to drop way too hard. It's going to drop a little bit, come right back up and just trade sideways, and then we're going to get a big reaction after CPI. But other than that, I'm seeing not the most like exciting day for tomorrow. The market tends to be slow right before CPI comes out. there's a potential bullish triangle on NIO, so there's a chance that it might cool off a bit, then push up to 11, maybe reject off 11, just continue to trade sideways. And then we're going to see a much bigger move when CPI comes out. The real move is going to come then. So watch that very carefully. All right, so I think it's going to retest to 10.5, come back up to 11, retest 10.8, and just trade sideways as time goes on, go back and forth and back and forth. Why may it test 10.5? Because maybe Bullard could slow the market down a bit tomorrow morning. Then it's just going to trade sideways. Then wait for the big move after CPI. All right, guys, so thank you for listening. Have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next video. NIO in the market to the moon is the long term is very bright. And peace out.